Recently, I've begun to realize that my media consumption is really interesting, specifically my book consumption. As someone who majors in a very technical field, I have a very broad kind of interest in the world, and it kind of spills over a lot into my reading, where I read a lot of unrelated books at the same time, and somehow I keep track of all of them, and somehow it's just it's just a chaotic blend of varied interests that just cloud my mind, and I'm just interested in all of it all at once at the same time, right? I've been talking to my friends about it, but they kind of hate when I ramble about my books, which is fair. I mean, I think for one, they're not very interesting in the grand scheme of things. And another thing is I don't think I do a very good job of selling the exciting nature of my work. But anyway, well, not my work, but the work that I'm reading. In any case, I wanted to kind of talk about the books that I'm working through right now. Uh, and yes, this is very honest. I am actually working through these books. Uh, I like all of them right now. I have mixed thoughts about some of them, but overall, I'd say I feel very positively about all of them. Uh, I guess let's get started. The first one is something got recently. I got this book last week, I think. No, 2 weeks ago. This is Mathematics for Finance, an Introduction to Financial Engineering. I started reading this because I was working on a project where I was trying to make predictions about when developing countries' currencies crash. I don't remember why I decided I wanted to do that, but I just decided I wanted to do that. I built a logistic regression model that kind of worked on this. It worked in that it had this classification where if the currencies, if the country's currency dropped like a certain percentage this month, then it was considered a crisis month. And I was trying to use logistic regression to So I got into this book mainly because I was working on a project on predicting currency crashes in developing economies. I was scraping data from the Federal Reserve through Fred, which is an API they have, and then I was also scraping ticker data from Yahoo Finance, and I was reading that into a CSV and then putting that in C, and I made a logistic regression model of it where it classified a month as a crash month if like the currency dropped below 10% in a certain period. I don't remember how exact I did it. It was like a few weeks ago, so I don't fully remember, but I was working on it and I was like, I don't think logistic regression is the best way to do this. And I mean, I read a paper and they literally said logistic regression is not the best way to make these kinds of predictions about uh, currencies in global economies. And there's actually a lot more to it. And I realized I had to study a lot more math to actually make good predictions. So uh, I got this book, which is kind of, what I understand, it's like supposed to be very introductory. It's supposed to be like an elementary approach to mathematics or finance, so you can get to harder books like stochastic calculus, for example. Um, so I guess this book goes through. Where is it? So this book goes through things like risk-free assets and simple market models, forward and futures contracts, portfolio management, etc., etc. Really, like it's just supposed to teach you like all these financial terms and I guess some basic mathematics for making predictions, I suppose. I'm not exactly certain. I'm only on the first chapter. I like it so far. Um, it's talking about long and short positions, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, this is the first book I wanted to show you. The next one is a book I've actually already finished, but I'm kind of working backwards through. This is A First Course in Probability by Sheldon Ross. I adore this book. So I got this book in a donation bin on my first week of during my first week of college, and I took it up because I don't know, I just really like old books that look like this, like just like a very simple cover and just like very old pages. So I got this book out of the donation bin for free. I started reading it, I enjoyed it. It was my introduction to mathematical proofs, actually, like logical reasoning and all of that. It's something I had not explored prior to reading this book, and I was really grateful for the experience for free that I got from uh, finding this book by chance. So I read this book, and it pretty much goes through like a very it's just like a foundational course in probability. It goes through random variables, limit theorems, Markov chains, things like that. And it inspired me to take a class on probability, which I did the following semester in the spring. That class is very hard, but I enjoyed the class and I loved the book. So, yeah, I'm gonna work through this. Maybe I think this year I'm going to work this once more. But I have a little bit more of a background in real analysis and proofwriting in general, so I feel like I'll enjoy it more this year than I did last year. Although I did enjoy it last year, there were just a few things that were too difficult for me to understand, in my opinion. Like the central limit theorem, yeah, that's not that's not something I really get. But I think on my second pass of the book, I might finally be able to synthesize all the information and actually be able to say I've mastered this book. I wouldn't say I've mastered this book. I've read this book. I have not mastered the book. There's a difference. Um, the next book I'm working through right now is 1984 by George Orwell. This one I put on hiatus about a few, no, it's been like 5 months now. I've put this on hiatus for a very long time. I mean, you've probably heard of 1984, right? I mean, this is a very popular book. Um, a lot of people have talked about this book. A lot of people have read this book in school. I never read it in school, but I really wanted to. I think I kind of read the summary on SparkNotes or something. And I was like, this is really interesting, and I bought the book and I was like, I'm going to read this. I saw all the references about like Big Brothers watching. I was like, I have to read this book. I bought it, started reading it, and I got bored. I'm not gonna lie, I got bored, but it's not a boring book. I was just like, I guess at the time I was reading it, I just wasn't really into reading at the time. I guess I have these slumps where I don't read for like a week or two, and then I get back into it. So this book was an unfortunate victim of that circumstance. So I kind of missed the window in which I was interested in that book because I was interested in it, but I also wasn't in the mood to read. But I'm going to continue it very soon. We'll see. Uh, a book that I'm currently reading is The Social Network. Well, it's not called The Social Network, but it's the book that The Social Network is based on. I've watched The Social Network movie like probably 10, 15 times. I think it's an amazing movie. I think, what's his name? Aaron Sorkin, I believe, is an amazing writer. I think he's an exceptional writer. The script is so, it has a rhythm that I can't explain, but it has a rhythm that's so distinct and so interesting, and I don't know. I just loved The Social Network. It was a great movie. It was my favorite. It's probably my favorite movie. Uh, so I'm reading The Accidental Billionaires, the founding of Facebook, and yeah, I'm not gonna share my thoughts about Mark Zuckerberg as a person. I mean, I kind of really share my thoughts as a person. I don't know him, but I'm not gonna share my thoughts about, you know, Mark Zuckerberg's existence as a billionaire. But I will say this book is very well written so far. I like that it's, I mean, I like that I can read it, and I can read it in the sense that like I don't really have to take all of this as fact, you know? Because like there's like an element of an unreliable narrator because this is technically a fictional account. Technically, it's a fictional account because, in a way, semi-fictional because I believe the author contacted Eduardo Saverin and other people to write the book, but never Mark Zuckerberg himself. So I'm very wary of how he's portrayed in this book. Although, although I do like it though. But I think it's important when reading this book to kind of keep in your mind that there could be an unreliable narrator. So you shouldn't exactly be like, oh yeah, this is like fact and true. This happened on this date. Like, I don't think that's how it's supposed to be read. I think it's a really good story. I don't know how much of it is true. I can't speak to that, but I really like this book. Another interesting thing is that this book isn't exactly the full basis for the movie The Social Network. It's like, I think what happened, from what I understand, they started writing together, like they started writing the movie and the book in parallel, and then at some point they diverged, like they were like looking at each other's notes, and at some point they stopped looking at each other's notes, and then they came back at the end. I'm not sure if that's the actual story, but that's what I heard. So it really makes it interesting, and I want to finish this book to see like, oh yeah, what differences are in the movie, what differences are in the book, what do I like about the movie versus the book. In any case, I like this so far. It's an enjoyable read. Uh, it reminds me a little bit. It's like the less unhinged version of Elon Musk's biography by Walter Isaacson. I think, hmm, that book was so. The first half was so interesting. The second half was just unhinged. But I don't have that book with me right now, but I'll get into it like another day. Uh, Infinite Jest. This is this is a read. This is a very difficult book to read. Like it's so hard to read. It's in the sense that like, first of all, it's really long. I mean, look at it, right? Second of all, I have to Google a word every few paragraphs or so. But that kind of makes it fun, because it's like an active learning experience. I feel like my vocabulary is expanding so much just from reading the few pages I've read, you know. I'm not very far in this one. I'm only 30 pages in. However, I do plan to make some ground before the summer is out, hopefully. Uh, this is written by David Foster Wallace. I don't remember how I got into Infinite Jest actually. I think I think the way I got into Infinite Jest was I saw an Instagram video about that one movie where it's supposed to be like an account of David Foster Wallace's interview with a journalist, and the journalist was played by Jesse Eisenberg, who is one of my favorite actors. I really enjoyed I really enjoyed kind of I didn't watch the whole movie. I didn't watch the whole movie, but I really enjoyed the parts that I watched, and they inspired me to get one of David Foster Wallace's books. And a lot of people online were like, "Oh yeah, start with Infinite Jest. Start with Infinite Jest. Infinite Jest is this." And some other people online were like, "Infinite Jest is a terrible book. It's so long. It's so unreadable." So I was like, obviously I have to buy this book now. So I bought the book. Uh, it's good so far. I like it. I'm at the part where I don't think I can say that actually. It's quite explicit. But all I'll say is that so far I've gotten through the part where um the what's his name? I have no idea what his name is, but um I guess I'll open the book and look. So the first part that I've read a few, like, I don't know if you call these chapters, but I've read a few chapters. The one that stuck out to me so far was actually the first one, which is The Year of Glad, where this tennis prodigy is talking to a board of university representatives at a college he wants to play tennis at. And they're grilling him about his scores being doctored in his academic record, which, they have reason to believe his scores have been doctored because, first of all, they're not consistent with his previous semesters, and I think his mother is also an administrator at the high school he's attending. So, I mean, it's actually a very mundane conversation when I actually say it out loud. But I think David Foster Wallace has this really impressive way of narrating very mundane conversations and very mundane situations, in the sense that it could be the most boring thing ever. It could be a university administrators meeting where you're just sitting there and you're just talking to college administrators, and he somehow makes it just a really interesting experience in through his literature. I don't know how he does it. I couldn't tell you. I wish I could be half the writer that he was, but yeah, I like it so far. Um, yeah, it just takes a while to read. It takes a lot of active commitment to read because you have to kind of you have to have a dictionary on hand at all times while you're reading this book. But in any case, I like it. Uh, I was gonna say we're at the last book, but I have two more. I think think I'll do this one first. I kind of want to end out with my other one. The next book I want to talk about is Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. This book, I have I have thoughts. My main issue, I haven't for reference, I have not read this book. I have not finished this book. I have not even reached a substantial portion of this book. I am in no way an authority on Dostoevsky's literature. In no way an authority on Russian literature. I know nothing about it, but I don't know. I just bought this book. I don't remember why. I think I just saw a Reddit thread on it, and I was like, "Whoa, this sounds interesting. Let me buy it." And I got the book, and here we are. So, Crime and Punishment is, for me, very hard to read. Not in the same way as David Foster Wallace's, in the sense that I can read and I can understand what each word means individually, but I feel like there's an element to it that I'm not understanding. That's probably because it's been translated from Russian to English, and from what I know, Russian is a very emotional language, and a lot of things don't translate very directly to English. So I'm reading this book, and I'll read a sentence, and I'll say that, well, that's a sentence. I know individually what the words mean. I know the literal meaning, I guess, but I feel like there's something the characters are trying to convey that I'm just not understanding. You know, if I could speak Russian, I feel like I would really enjoy this book, but I don't. I can't speak Russian, can't read Russian. So, um, but I still think this is interesting so far. I mean, I kind of DNF'd around the part where there's a man in a bar and he's really drunk and he has like this drunken rant that lasts for like 5 pages. And I'm just reading this guy's nonsensical rant while he's drunk for several hundred words, and I'm sitting here thinking like, what is the point of this? You know, like why am I, you know, like how is this advancing the plot? But it's, I don't know. Perhaps maybe as I gain more like literary maturity, what's the word? Is the term literary maturity? I don't know. As I read more books, maybe I'll get more into this and I'll enjoy it more. Who knows? This is the cover. It's it's an interesting cover. It's just people walking around a circle. I'm not sure why, but yeah, I think I'll enjoy this. Maybe after I gain some experience in. Maybe I'll read other Russian literature books before I get back to that, and then I can give a fair assessment of that one. Okay, the final book that I'm still working through, I've been working through this one for maybe a year, 2 years, on and off, been working through it for 2 years. My father wanted to borrow this book and read it, but I've been hogging it because I just can't, like, as many times as I've paused and started this book, I just can't let go of it. I just have to keep it around me because I get these random times where I'm like, I really want to read this book in particular. And yeah, here's the book. It's Edward Siaga and the Challenges of Modern Jamaica. Uh, Now this is a very, I don't know, I don't think this is mainstream. It's absolutely not mainstream. But for context, Siaga was a politician in the 70s and 80s. Well, not 70s and 80s. He was a politician for a very long time, but he was prime minister of Jamaica in the 70s and 80s. And I think I might be getting the time periods wrong. I'm not sure if he was a prime minister in the 70s, but definitely in the 80s. And his main political rival was Michael Manley. Now, Siaga was a staunch capitalist. He was very much economically conservative. Manley, on the other hand, believed in democratic socialism. And that, like, tension, they were both very popular in their heyday, and they influenced, like, because of them, Jamaica has a lot of tribal politics. And I think we in general, internationally, I've realized more and more countries are just the same in that there's just a level of tribalism I've realized in all cultures and all groups of people, and it's just become so pervasive in our lives, really, this tribalism, and it's always been this way. But anyway, in this case, it talks about things like Siaga writing the country's constitution and then going on to lead the country in a period of a lot of economic strain when the country was in significant debt to the IMF. It talks about his impact as a music producer, I think. I think he was a producer. I'm not sure. But he was in the musical industry at some point. It talks about his studies at Harvard, but not very in depth. There's not much on his time at Harvard. But he studied at Harvard. I think he studied social sciences or something to that effect. But he was a very influential politician, and I think a lot of the countries, when I read about Jamaica's policies nowadays and what's being implemented now and the development projects that are going on now, it's his work. It's literally his work, and I don't see enough people talking about it. I think Siaga, I think Siaga's work back then and a lot of his ideas and a lot of the things he wrote into the Constitution are things that are being implemented right now and are making the country much better, but aren't necessarily being highlighted as something that he thought of and is now, and a long time ago, that is now being implemented in the present, you know? Uh, but my opinion of the book, going back to my opinion of the book and not my thoughts on his policies, I think I have a very, very, very positive opinion of this book. It's it's so interesting because it's not really, you on first look it would be like, oh yeah, this is a biography, but it's not really a biography. I feel like it just talks about Jamaica and the Caribbean in that time period through Edward Siaga. Like the book doesn't follow Edward Siaga. It has a very top-down approach where it focuses on the economy and the social scene as a whole and the country situation as a whole. And it's just like, yeah, this was the entire state of this. This is what this guy did. This is what this guy did. And Siaga just happened to be there during that time doing this, right? And I think that's the appropriate way to approach a lot of these political texts. I don't like when I'm reading about a politician and it's just like entirely focused on that politician and kind of just like what they thought. I kind of like to hear the thoughts of other politicians around them and the general public as well, like what was going on, what was happening. I think in order to properly tell the story of any politician and any public figure really, you have to go deep into the context that they are surrounded with. And I think going back to my mention of Elon Musk's biography by Walter Isaacson, I think around the second half of the book, that's where Walter Isaacson failed a bit. I don't think he set that context very well in the second half of the book. But anyway, um, I really enjoy this book. I would rate it so far. I think the book is perfect, honestly, so far. I think it's incredibly interesting. Uh, I like reading about it, not necessarily because of Siaga alone, but that period of Jamaica in general. My only regret surrounding this book is that I didn't get the corresponding textbook from that was written on his political rival, Michael Manley. I didn't even buy this book actually. A friend of mine bought me this book over the summer, and I was really grateful for that. But yeah, anyway, uh, those are all the books that I'm currently reading, not the books that I've read in the past year. If we're talking about books I've read in the past year, then we're going to be here for a much longer time. But yeah, I just wanted to share what I was interested in. I feel like from my conversations, I have a lot of varied interests that don't really intersect very well. So I just wanted to share that and to see if anyone else has similar interests or would like to hear about it. Um, yeah, other than that, I have nothing else to say.